Hello there and welcome into another edition of the JayMac Snack. I want to take a quick minute and update you on the latest regarding whether or not the President of the United States intends to pardon himself and his family, and can he pardon himself and his family. The President has been talking about the ability to pardon himself since 2018, and now it sounds as though they're having discussions about whether or not he should do it now at the encouragement of one Sean Hannity.
Well, that's a good point. And, you know, I watched Andrew Weissman come out and literally say, Biden's AG needs to go after Donald Trump. And I'm like, the president out the door needs to pardon his whole family and himself because they want this witch hunt to go on in perpetuity. They're so full of rage and insanity against the president.
That's right, rage and insanity against the president. So he's being encouraged by Sean Hannity to pardon himself and his family.
With his time in office coming to a close, President Trump has discussed potentially pardoning 3 of his children, his son-in-law, and his attorney, Rudy Giuliani. While their potential criminal exposure is unclear, sources tell CNN Trump has talked about pardoning those around him preemptively because he's concerned prosecutors will target them once he's out of office.
I've heard no mention of any pardons in any conversations I've had in the White House other than the pardon of Lieutenant General Michael Flynn.
So there you have it. Whether or not they'll be able to pardon himself and his family, well, let's dive into that a little bit. First of all, let's answer the question, who can the president pardon? Well, the answer to that is pretty much anyone. Presidents have very broad authority to issue pardons for federal crimes. That according to the Constitution. And again, federal crimes, not state crimes. So he can pardon just about anybody. Now, do you have to be charged with a crime first? I hear a lot of people saying that the president can't pardon Rudy Giuliani yet. He hasn't been charged with a crime, or his family members. Simply not true. If you remember back to Gerald Ford pardoning President Richard Nixon, Nixon had not been charged with any crimes. He was pardoned for any conduct related to the Watergate scandal. And again, Nixon had not been charged with a crime. So you can just say anything to do with their time in the White House. They are pardoned for that. So the question is, can he issue a pardon for future crimes? Well, the answer to that is no. You cannot issue a pardon for something that is going to happen in the future. So you set a drop-dead date. So you say anything that happened before today in the White House, they are pardoned for that federally. And it can be pretty broad-reaching on the spectrum. Now, the question that a lot of us have is, can the President of the United States pardon himself? Again, in 2018, President Trump tweeted that he had the absolute right to do so. And this was in the heat of Bob Mueller's investigation into Russian interference. Now, there are legal disagreements about whether or not the president can pardon himself. There is a legal principle that was set forth in a 1974 memo written by the Office of Legal Counsel, or the OLC as you'll hear it called, under President Nixon, that said, quote, under the fundamental rule that no one may be a judge in his own case, the president cannot pardon himself. The memo declared this days before Nixon resigned amid the Watergate scandal. Now, if you want my own personal opinion, I say absolutely not. There's no way in you-know-where that a president should be able to pardon themselves, because this would put them squarely above the law. And so I hope that if the president does this, that it will be challenged to the Supreme Court and that we'll get clarity on that. But everything about our government is checks and balances. Now, the check and balance against a president breaking the law during their tenure is impeachment. But what if you find out after the fact that they have broken the law? Can they break the law in secret and then pardon themselves? And then after the fact, it's discovered, and you can't go after them. I think that that goes against the core foundation of the Constitution and how things were designed to work. My personal opinion, that's it. I'm not an attorney, so take that for what you will. Can a president pardon in secret? Yes, in theory, yes. This president, as far as we know, hasn't done so, but he could issue a pardon for his family in secret, and we might not find out about it for a long time. Now, the other thing that the president could do, let's say that he comes to the legal conclusion that he can't pardon himself. Well, there's a couple of ways that he could still get a pardon. Number one, he could resign a day early. Mike Pence would be sworn in, and Mike Pence could give him a pardon. The other thing he could do is he wouldn't have to resign. He could claim temporary incapacitation. And under the 25th Amendment, Mike Pence would step in temporarily. And in that time period, while he is the acting president, he could issue a pardon to the president. So there are several sneaky ways to get around the legal issue of whether or not the president could pardon himself. He could have Mike Pence do it. So why would the family potentially need a pardon? What is on the radar out there that potentially could be a concern? Well, these are not proven. These are just some of the claims and allegations that are out there that I'll share with you that could be potential legal issues once the Trump family leaves the White House. There's a story going around that Jared Kushner lied on his security clearance application. You've heard the stories about Ivanka somehow taking consulting fees that were a write-off for the president. Could there be an issue there? And then for President Trump, there is the issue of the Russia investigation. And I talked about this a little bit in the last JayMac Snack, whether or not the president was exonerated by the Mueller investigation. And he absolutely was not. You can listen to him and believe what he says, but that's a dangerous game to play, as far as I'm concerned, because he has a very loose relationship with the truth. So was the president exonerated by the Mueller investigation for obstruction of justice? Well, you tell me.
The president has repeatedly claimed that your report found there was no obstruction and that it completely and totally exonerated him. But that is not what your report said, is it?
Correct. It is not what the report said.
You wrote, quote, "If we had confidence after a thorough investigation of the facts that the president clearly did not commit obstruction of justice, we would so state. Based on the facts and the applicable legal standards, however, we are unable to reach that judgment," close quote. Now, does that say there was no obstruction?
No.
Could you charge the president with a crime after he left office?
Yes.
You believe that you could charge the president of the United States with obstruction of justice after he left office?
Yes.
Ethically, under the ethical standards?
Well, I'm not certain because I haven't looked at the ethical standards, but the OLC opinion says that the prosecutor, while he cannot bring a charge against the sitting president, nonetheless he can continue the investigation to see if there are any other persons who might be drawn into the conspiracy.
So there you have it. He could be charged with obstruction after the fact. That doesn't mean that he's guilty. That is just Mueller's opinion that there is enough evidence there for an indictment. So now the question is, will the president pardon himself and his family? Do I have to ask? Is there any doubt in your mind whatsoever? This president will pardon his family. He will pardon Rudy Giuliani. He will pardon as many people as necessary to make sure that people don't come back and testify against him. And yes, he will pardon himself. Of that, I am 100% sure. Now, I hope that this helped you understand the issue and the power and authority of the pardon and what the president can and cannot do. And also, what are some of the potential reasons why he might need a pardon or why his family might need a pardon. With that, that is JayMac Snack. I hope you enjoyed it. Please take a minute and scan the QR code on the screen or go to the description of this podcast where you can become a patron. You can make a one-time donation or, better yet, commit to a monthly donation of $1 or more, $5 or more. I'm currently looking for 5 more people to become patrons at least the $5 levels so that I can dedicate myself to bringing you this snack content and also our live broadcasts and perhaps bringing some civility and reason to all of the claims and allegations that you are hearing. With that, I look forward to our next snack and have a wonderful day.